I'm Alyce-Kay from Threshold of Hanani and the Widow Reckelhaus, and I have my mom with me. Mom, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Lyn Hanush, and I'm glad to be here with you.
Very
Uh,
good. And where are you?
and I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Very good. And I'm in
I
Sweetwater,
live in a
Tennessee.
senior community.
Very good. Very good. So we're like on opposite sides of the country, basically. But we have
Yeah.
our little afternoon talks and we've talked about some of the things that we'd really like to share with you guys. And so we've been talking about mom's prayer walks and about her other walks, ministry type walks. This one's going to be a little bit different because this one wasn't so much ministry, although she did do quite a bit of praying. But we're going to talk about four different walks that she took on this. And these were each, I think, about a weekend, right?
No, for a week.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
Very
I
good.
spent a week on them.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So where were these walks?
and there's three of them, by the way,
Both three, and then the one with us.
and the one with you. Yes, that's
Right.
right.
So
Yeah,
four.
thank you. You're right. Four. Uh,
And
these
there's
walks are Mount Whitney.
and you guys, just so
Yeah.
you know, there was like a near death experience on one of these. So so just hang in for that. Okay.
Yep.
So these were where?
These were at Mount Whitney,
Okay. And what's special
which
about
is
Mount Whitney?
Mount Whitney is the highest state in the lower 48 states.
The highest mountain.
Uh,
Yeah.
yes, the highest mountain.
Hmm.
What did I say? The highest state?
State. Yeah, that's
It's
okay.
the highest mountain in the lower 48 states.
Right.
It's located on the backside of Sequoia National Park in California and just off of 395, which if you're in California, you know that highway.
And it's
So
close to the lowest place, which is,
Death Valley.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you have the highest and lowest places really
Mhm.
close together, which is kind of
That's
interesting.
right.
Yeah. And do you remember offhand how tall Mount Whitney is?
Yes, it's 14,494 or 95 feet. They haven't quite decided.
Okay. All right.
And they may have come up with an even higher amount now. I'm not sure.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
like I saw something.
And this is not an easy walk, you guys. This is something that you train for, and there are some dangers on the way, which you're going to hear about. So, Mom, what made you want to hike Mount Whitney?
I think the one thing that really made me want to is that my youngest brother, who is older than me, he had hiked it when he was in high school with some buddies. And I thought, well, if he can do it, I probably could do that too.
Okay, but how
And
old were
so
you when you did this?
when I did this, I was 50 something.
Okay. So not old, but not
No,
young.
right, right.
He was
I
in
was in
high
my,
school, so
yeah, yes, exactly. So, but I'd been walking a lot, and so I figured, okay, and I'd done a lot of hiking and hiking in Yosemite and hiking to the peaks there and stuff. So I figured, okay, I could probably do this.
yeah, you had
So
done Cloud's Rest by then, right?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
and that's a very challenging trail in
Yeah,
lots of
Clouds
ways. It's
Rest, and I hiked up
El
Half
Cap.
Dome.
Okay.
Half
Okay.
Dome is a very challenging trail where you actually have ropes to hang on to getting partway up and
Hmm.
stuff,
And
which
Cloud's
I
Rest,
never felt any.
you've got a strict a steep fall on both sides of you. I
Yeah,
could not
at
do that.
Clouds Rest.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I couldn't do that. I'm terrified
yeah.
of
The
heights.
one gal that did do it with me, she was had a fear of heights, and we didn't realize what it was going to be.
And she crawled across
So
it, didn't she?
no, she held her hands like this and looked down at my feet, walked
Oh,
behind me,
wow.
and watched my feet. And while we were on the top of Cloud's Rest, she sat in a little corner in the rocks and handed me her camera to go take pictures for her,
Oh,
which I did.
well, she did
And
better than I
then
would have done.
I asked her, how do you want to go down? Do you want me to hold on to you, or what would be the best way? And she said, this way. So that's what we did.
Oh,
How we
gosh.
got to where it was a little more stable looking.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, yeah. So Mount Whitney. getting back to that. So you had already
Right.
done some pretty challenging things, but Mount Whitney is incredibly challenging. And what are some of the reasons for that?
It's got it's a lot of rock for one thing. And so the trails are, up, and there's 100 switchbacks on just a rock face that you have to go up to get to the top, and things like that. It's just a challenging trail.
It
But
also
it's
is a high altitude.
high altitude. That was the big problem for me. Um, the first time that I did it, I went with my friend Colette, who she and I had a lot in common as far as hiking. We were well matched, and we had decided to do it. So we went there and figured we'd go. We'd start the next morning, hike up and back, and then head home. And so the next day we started like at 3 a.m., which is when most people start, something like that. And so we started at about 3 a.m., headed up, especially if you're doing it a day hike, because you can do it in an overnight stay partway up. But we wanted to do it in one day. So we started up, and when we got up to the trail where the 100 switchbacks are, it was getting, midday. It was, early afternoon, I guess. And we noticed the clouds were coming over and it was getting dark and everything. And we started up the switchbacks, and the lightning and thunder came, and we'd been warned what to do. They had told us what we needed to do if the lightning started coming.
And you have to register with the rangers before you go up, right?
Yes, you do.
Yeah, they want to make sure that everybody goes up, comes down.
That's right. So we did that. You sign in at the beginning is what you do. And or did at that time. Now it's different, totally different. And so we signed in and we went up, and we get on these switchbacks, and I'm getting tireder and tireder because I do have a problem with altitude and my breathing. I could go one switchback and then I'd have to stop and rest, and another switchback and then stop and rest. And the lightning was starting to come closer. We were both getting concerned. Finally, I said, Colette, if you want to go on up, I'm going to sit here and rest. And if I can make it up further, I will. But you go ahead. And so she started on up because she really said, this is the ugliest place I've ever seen. I don't want to ever come here again. But
just a second before you go on, for those who don't know, why is altitude such a problem?
Well, the oxygen gets very thin up there.
Yeah, so it's hard to breathe. It's really hard to breathe. Your blood needs a lot more oxygen than that.
Exactly. And it affects some much worse than others. It can actually kill you if you go without too much, or you can get very sick.
People get nausea and even vomiting from that. Yeah.
Right. And I just couldn't breathe. So I got very tired. So anyway.
And one of the dangers with getting really tired is that you'll actually fall asleep and not wake up.
Yeah. And you want to be careful of that.
So. Yeah.
So I just got real tired, and I said, I don't think I'm going to make it all the way. If you want to go, you go. So she did. We're pretty evenly matched, but she has a lung power much better than mine. And so she went on, and she got up to the top of the switchbacks. And then the next thing I knew, she was coming back down. She said, nope, the lightning's getting too close and I don't want to stay up there. So we headed back down. And then the lightning kind of went away. But we'd already said we're heading back down now.
Right, yeah.
But at that point, the thing that I began to notice, and she did too, was we were on the switchbacks and looking at the rocks beneath us and the surrounding area. We began to see little creatures that were moving around, and they were these cute little creatures. And in the Bible, they're called rock conies. Another name for them is pica, and that's what we knew them as pikas.
Okay.
And they're these cute little, they have mouse-like ears, and they're just little chubby rabbit-like creatures, but not as big as a rabbit
Uh-huh.
type of thing.
Wow.
It's so cute. But the thing they were doing, they were gathering flowers, and flowers were growing in the rocky areas.
Oh, because
This
they were
absolutely,
putting them there. Were
the
the conies, were they putting them there?
no,
Oh, okay.
the flowers were growing. They were plucking the grasses and the weeds and laying them out to dry.
Huh.
And then they stack them. And I read about this more later, but they stack them and they take them into their shelters, into their dens in the rocks. And by the way, the flowers up there are beautiful.
Uh-huh.
Amazing. Here you're in this rocky landscape, nothing but rocks because you're above tree level, nothing but rocks. And you see these beautiful flowers. It's
Uh-huh.
just amazing.
Wow.
And then the pica, they stack these grasses and plants, and some of them are poisonous to them, but they stack those at the bottom of the pile. And when they take them into their dens, those are the ones that are in the bottom of the pile. So during the winter months, when they're eating the grasses that they've gathered, which I called their sheaves because it looked like they were gathering in the
Bringing in their
sheaves.
sheaves. Okay.
So when they eat their grasses, those are the last ones they come to, the poisonous ones. And by then they've lost their poison. And it's like,
Oh, okay. I thought they were
this
gonna
is a
like, okay, this is when we die or something. Okay.
no, this is totally, to me, was a God
That
thing,
is
a
so
beauty
cool.
of
Oh yeah, totally a
how
God
God
thing.
even works in those little picas to tell them, these, you need to let them lose their poison.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow, that's neat.
it's amazing. That's all part of the beauty of God.
Uh-huh. Wow, that's so
So,
cool. Okay, so that was the first one. That was with
yeah.
Colette.
Mhm.
Okay. What had you done to train for that one?
Very little. I mean, specifically, but we had both been hiking up
Hikers
in
and stuff. Yeah.
Yosemite quite a bit,
Yeah. But
and
then at that
we
point you realized you needed to work on getting your
then
lung
I realized,
capacity better.
yes, I needed to also plan on staying for a week ahead of time so I could acclimate,
Oh,
because
right.
acclimating your lungs, your blood cells, they, will develop so that you can breathe in that higher, thinner air
Mm-hmm.
much more easily. So,
Right.
so after that, the next two times that I went, I took time to acclimate. I'd get there, we'd camp in the campground for a week and then do the hike.
Mm-hmm.
And that really helped. And we do little hikes during the day around the area. So we
Mm-hmm.
were hiking in the mountains.
Right.
And
And
all
some
that helps.
people to prepare for altitude hiking, if they don't live someplace where there's mountains nearby, they'll run, which will increase your lung capacity.
Right. Yeah. And that's good. And Colette was a runner, which is why I think she had the higher
Oh, right.
capacity.
Yeah,
So she did
yeah,
a lot of running. In
yeah,
fact,
that's good.
on hikes that we would do normally, she'd say, okay, let's run up that hill, race up that hill. So we did. But I never got real good at it. And she always got there before me.
Wow. Yeah. Wow, that's
Yeah.
good. Okay, so then the second time that you went to Mount Whitney, what was that?
Yeah. This was a little more well planned, and that was in 1992. And Susie, my friend Susie, was preparing to walk with me up Oregon and Washington. So we had decided together to hike Mount Whitney as part of our training. And we were going to do it over during a full moon. And so we decided to do a night hike over up Mount Whitney, and where we would start in the afternoon and end up hiking at night.
Mm-hmm.
So we did. We got there a week early before our scheduled hike, and we did a lot of hikes at night. We hiked
Mm-hmm.
at night and in preparation in the mountains around us. And once we hiked down to the valley, which wasn't too far down, from where we had come, and then hiked back up on a trail. And that was really neat. And we got to enjoy what we called moon shadows, because instead of sun shadows, we would see this almost full moon producing shadows places. And it was
Wow, that's
beautiful. It
cool.
was amazing.
That's so neat. And
It
so,
was.
what was the weather like on this hike?
So we had a lot of rain that started out, and there had been snow up in on the mountain a day or so before we were scheduled to hike up.
And what time of year was this?
In July.
Okay.
We went up on July 14th.
Okay.
So it was overnight July
Wow.
14th and into the 15th.
Okay.
So, but there was snow because it's a very high mountain. And so we kind of knew what we were getting into, but not how bad it would be. And so as we started up at about 2:30 in the afternoon, and we got just to the bottom of the switchbacks. And there we took time to eat and to rest a while. And the pikas were wandering around in that area.
Oh,
And
wow.
so we got to watch them. We got to hear one of them calling. They make the loudest, highest pitch sound
Wow.
I've ever heard. It was
And
really,
how big are they?
oh, they're about so big. They're
Okay.
just this
So not
little
very
ball
big.
of fur. Yeah.
Okay.
And they have the cutest tiny heads with their pointed ears. They're so cute.
Wow.
And but boy, could they yell. It was amazing. And we had taken off our little packs that we were wearing and
Uh-huh.
set them down. And all of a sudden we realized that one of them had been chewing on one of our packs. I don't remember whose it was. We have nectarines and other fruit in there. They'd gotten a nectarine out and were eating it. So, and we hadn't even noticed that they had been behind us there. So,
Uh-huh. Wow.
so it was just kind of a blessing from God to see that, though, and to see what they do and to watch those critters, all part of God's creation.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
so wonderful.
Yeah. That's
And
cool.
so we continued on finally and headed up the switchbacks, and by now it was getting dark, and the full moon came out, but so did the clouds. And so the clouds and the full moon played hide and seek the whole time, and more hiding than seeking, I think, because it just was not out. So we had to use our flashlights a lot more than we expected.
Mm-hmm.
We climbed up and got into the snow area, and pretty soon the trail was totally obliterated. We couldn't see where the trail went. We got to a point where we didn't know what to do. We couldn't figure it out. And
It's
we
kind of
tried.
dangerous in a place like that.
It was kind of dangerous, and I had slipped and fallen a couple of times
Ugh.
because some of it was icy. And so we were being very careful.
Well, and being from California, you weren't used to snow, just
Right,
don't really know how to handle it. Yeah.
right. Yeah, we didn't. And we didn't have crampons on our shoes or
Right.
anything.
Yeah.
So we were just wearing regular hiking boots. And so we were just, doing our best. And then it came to that one spot where we couldn't figure out what to do. And we were just about ready to give up. We tried several things and nothing worked. And we were just about ready to give up and head back down. And Susie said, wait just a minute, let me try one more thing. So she climbed up above me and just went straight up the side, picking her way.
With snow and
And
ice.
I
Okay.
was holding the flashlight for her to see. And then, and she got up pretty easily. So she got up to where the trail was again, and it looked pretty clear after that. So she held her flashlight for me then, and helped me up, guided me up, and told me just where to step and where to go. And I got up, and then we headed on up the trail. And after that, the trail was fairly good. And it had been, it started raining off and on a little bit, but not bad. And we had rain gear, so we were okay. And we, every time we stopped to rest, this is really important to know because it affects later on. Right. Every time we stopped to rest, Susie had this bag that she had brought along. And we would take turns drawing something out of the bag. And it was always 2 pieces of candy tied together and with a scripture verse included. And so we would read the scripture verse as we went up or as we stopped, and read that scripture verse, and then we'd continue walking, and often we'd take time to pray too. And so we did that. And
did you talk about the verses at all, or
yes,
just
we talked about the verses.
Okay, yeah.
And you know, they were meaningful verses and good verses. We really enjoyed talking about those. So so we went on up, and then we got onto the trail that led through what they call the windows, and there's several peaks along the way, and there's openings in between these peaks where you can see out and see the valley, and you get this beautiful scenery. It's just gorgeous. There's lakes down there that you can see. And so we were going through the windows when the lightning started coming and the thunder, and we could see it over the main part of Mount Whitney. And so we sat down in one of the window areas and we watched to see if it was going to come our way or if it was going to go the other way. Well, it went the other way, thankfully. So we were able to continue on. And we hiked on the rest of the way. We were now almost at the top elevation. So we just had a little bit further to hike. We got to the top, and there's this, there's a building there that's made of stone, and it's about 8 feet high and 8 feet. Each wall is 8 feet, so there's square building, low ceilinged and everything. But it's a shelter for hikers. And so we went into the shelter, and we were the only ones there. We hadn't seen anybody else on the trail, no other stupid people like we were at night. So we went in and we laid out our pads to sleep on, and got out our the things that we had brought to keep us warm, and the emergency blankets, which are made of a foil-like thing, and laid down to try and sleep. Well, all of a sudden, we both looked at each other. We couldn't sleep. We weren't able to sleep. And we said, we are shivering like crazy. If we aren't careful, we will go into hypothermia. And we knew we had to get up and do something. So we got up. And
again, there's the danger of if you fall asleep, you might not wake up.
That's right, exactly. And we didn't want that to happen. Yeah. So we said, we've got to get up and move. So we began moving around, and we tried to do jumping jacks. Well, we could do them this way. We couldn't do them that way because the ceiling was too low.
Oh, right.
So that didn't work too well. We tried running around in circles in there and just trying to warm up. And we were still shivering. And we said, oh, this is crazy. And we just kept trying different things. And finally, I started singing How Great Thou Art. And I have no idea why I did this. I'm sure God pushed me into it. I started singing How Great Thou Art, and Susie joined me, and we sang, and we noticed we weren't shivering anymore. So then we began to sing, and we just sat there and sang the whole time for the next, 2-3 hours, and sang every song we knew, and then some that we didn't know. We made them up if we didn't know them. And we kept warm. And I was absolutely amazed how much that did for us. And most of the songs were Christian songs, so we were giving praise to God. And I think he was just warming us up.
That's cool.
But it was just amazing. But so we did the rest of the night that way. We looked outside, and it was foggy. We're completely enclosed in fog. We wanted to see the view. So we kept waiting. Finally, we just gave up waiting. It was, getting later in the morning, and we said, well, we better head back down. We were both so exhausted. We'd been awake most of 24 hours and then some.
And then you're going to do this difficult hike.
Yeah. So we headed down, and as we headed down, we got to the windows and we turned and looked back. And Mount Whitney was still covered in fog, but the rest of it, we were out in the open in the sun, and it was beautiful.
Wow.
So we got our views through the windows, but not from Mount Whitney, which is from the very top, which is an absolutely gorgeous view.
Now, have you skipped something about the verses?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. That comes. Okay. All right. Sorry.
Yeah. There's still one more thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So we get to the top of the switchbacks, and we sat down to rest before we started. Now, Susie didn't know, I hadn't told her, but I was a ball of nerves. So nervous about going down those switchbacks because I knew how much worse it is, how much harder it is to go down on snow than it is to come up. And so I was just, I could not get rid of that fear of what would happen. And so we get to the top, and top of the switchbacks, ready to go down them. And Susie has one verse left in the bag, and it's my turn to draw it out. I drew it out. I looked at the verse, and the tears started coming. And it was from Isaiah 41:9, I think, or 9 or 10.
10,
one
I
that
think.
talks about it talks about being with us and holding our, he says, I will hold your right hand, and I will be with you.
Yeah.
I used to have the verse memorized. But
yeah, and I do have it memorized, but I can't think of it right now. Hold on. I'm looking it up here. 41:10. It's fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Yes, I will help you. Yes, I will uphold you with the right hand of my righteousness.
Yes, exactly.
I love that.
And that just melted my fear away. And I told Susie what I'd been going through, and she says, I had no idea. But it was just, we were praising God that he'd given us that verse as the last verse. It was,
and he had control of that. Yeah,
absolutely. He had complete control of that. So that verse was there for me, and that's been a very special verse in my life for years now. So as we started down, people were starting to come up now, and they didn't seem to be having any problems. So when we got down to that spot, sure enough, they had worn the path already. It was no
through
ice,
the snow.
there was no snow.
Okay.
Yeah, it was all gone.
Okay.
So there were some on the sides, but not on the path itself. It was cleared for us.
That's
so
nice.
We had no problem going down. And it was just such a beautiful experience, and just another reminder of how God takes care of his own. We are in his hands, and he will care for us.
That is so cool. I think we were going to talk about 2 more, but let's save those for another video. Those both have the same theme of family, so let's go ahead and save those for another time. I do want to mention before we go that my mom's book, Putting a Face on America, which is about her walk from Washington State down to Key West, Florida, her prayer walk, you can get it for free as a paperback, not just an ebook, you guys, the paperback. All that we ask that you pay is the shipping for that, which I think is like $8.99 or $8.95 or something. We'll put that below. If you want to make a donation in addition to that, you may. You don't have to, but you can. And if you make a donation to Seek Him First Ministries, that will go towards some of her future prayer walks. And so if you're interested in that, then go ahead. Mom, was there anything else that you wanted to say about this last hike up Mount Whitney or anything?
I think that was it. We got down, we spent something like 30 hours on the mountain, and we drove to a motel because then we wanted to stay at a motel. And
you wanted a good night's sleep. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my
So,
goodness. That
yeah.
is so cool. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
And it's a highlight for both of us in our lives. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing about that with us. That's really cool.
mhm.
Okay, well, y'all, we will see you next week. We're going to talk some more about her other Mount Whitney hikes and some spiritual lessons in those. And so we'll see you next time. We love you all. Bye bye.
Bye bye.